President called 911 on my wife for changing a lock. She demanded our keys, but my wife was a federal marshal quietly documenting a $400,000 embezzlement scheme for months. Can you even fathom the audacity? Our HOA president, Brenda Sterling, actually called 911 on my wife Emily for simply changing the locks on our own home. Then, with a chilling sense of entitlement, she demanded our master keys, citing community safety. My blood boiled as I watched this woman, Brenda, tell the responding officers that Emily was trespassing on HOA property and needed immediate arrest. The sheer, unadulterated rage that coursed through me, witnessing Brenda's perfectly manicured finger jab accusingly at my wife while she smugly lectured about community rules. I can still taste the metallic tang of that fury. What Brenda didn't know, what she couldn't possibly have imagined, was that Emily wasn't just some difficult resident. Oh no, my Emily was Deputy U.S. Marshal Emily Miller, and for 3 months, she'd been meticulously, quietly, documenting Brenda Sterling's staggering $400,000 embezzlement scheme. What would you do if your HOA tried to prosecute you for simply improving your home? Because when Emily finally, dramatically, flashed her federal badge, Brenda's face drained to the color of fresh snow, and our entire neighborhood suddenly understood where their missing dues had really gone. My name is David Miller, and at 45 I truly believed I'd outlived enough petty tyrants to last 3 lifetimes. 2 decades as an Air Force mechanic taught me not just how to fix what's broken, but how to spot those who confuse a little authority with actual personality. Yet nothing, absolutely nothing could have prepared me for the Pine Ridge Mountain community and its self-appointed empress, Brenda Sterling. Emily and I had moved to this idyllic Colorado haven 2 years prior, inheriting her grandmother's charming 19. Imagine 807 homes, each valued at millions, spread across sprawling 2-acre lots, cradled by a national forest so pristine you could literally smell the pine sap mingling with your morning coffee on the deck. Emily's grandmother had built that little cabin when this was untamed wilderness, granting us cherished grandfathered property rights that predated Brenda's precious HOA by a full 4 decades. We poured our hearts and $180,000 into transforming that rustic retreat into our dream home. Emily, my wife of 18 years, worked a federal law enforcement job that demanded frequent travel. She was always deliberately vague about the specifics. Something about financial investigations, operational security. A smart woman indeed. And as it turned out, that very professional paranoia would save us. Our nightmare truly began one crisp morning as I watched the mist roll off the mountains from our deck. Emily emerged, her duty belt creaking with that familiar leather-on-metal sound as she tended to our flower boxes. Even in jeans and a t-shirt, she carried herself with that unmistakable law enforcement posture, scanning, assessing, perpetually ready for trouble. Just then, a white Escalade, sporting custom vanity plates, rumbled into our driveway like a suburban tank. Brenda Sterling stepped out, adorned with enough jewelry to fund a small country's defense budget. An 8-year HOA president, a prominent real estate agent, and married to City Councilman Sterling, she was utterly convinced the universe revolved around her opinions. This woman could find a code violation in the Sistine Chapel. "Mr. Miller," she declared, not as a greeting, but a royal decree, clutching a manila envelope as if it contained evidence of war crimes. "A formal violation notice regarding your unauthorized exterior modifications." I felt the rough deck boards under my bare feet as I approached. "What modifications, Brenda?" She pointed an accusing finger at our beautiful new oak door, with its custom stained glass panels. "It completely violates architectural harmony standards. That's a $500 fine plus immediate restoration to community compliance." The sweet scent of pine needles, usually so calming, was replaced by that familiar metallic surge of controlled fury. "Brenda," I began, my voice tight, "we have grandfathered rights. This property predates your HOA by 4 decades. Her laugh, sharp and dismissive, could have stripped paint. "Grandfathered rights don't override community standards, sweetie. This monstrosity affects everyone's property values." She gestured at our home as if it were a sewage treatment plant. Emily stepped forward, her civilian covers still intact. "We've meticulously reviewed the HOA governing documents," she stated calmly. There's no door restriction in the original county filing. Brenda's smile turned venomous. I don't care what you think you know about law, honey. I've been protecting this community standard since before you people moved to our mountain paradise. The way she spat, you people carried enough poison to kill small animals. Here's a little legal secret most folks don't know. HOA architectural standards must be properly recorded with county officials to be enforceable. Otherwise, they're just fancy toilet paper. 30 days to comply, Brenda continued, her voice dripping with threat. Or we file a lien and pursue forced sale for community protection. The chilling threat hung in the crisp mountain air like smoke from a house fire. Emily's wedding ring began its unconscious, rhythmic tap-tap-tap against her coffee mug, the only sign her professional instincts were fully engaged. We'll explore our options, I replied carefully. Brenda's predatory smile widened. You do that, David. Some residents need to learn that community harmony requires financial commitment. The emphasis she placed on financial sent a shiver down my spine. As her Escalade crunched down our gravel driveway, spewing diesel exhaust, I turned to Emily. Can she actually do this legally? Emily was already reaching for her phone, a dangerous flicker in her eyes. Let's find out exactly what kind of authority Brenda Sterling really thinks she had. Little did I know my brilliant wife was about to unleash her formidable investigative skills on our neighborhood's most dangerous predator. Just 3 days after Brenda's door ultimatum, her campaign escalated faster than a summer wildfire. I was in my workshop, the cabin's old storage shed, now a haven of sawdust and creativity, when the unmistakable rumble of multiple vehicles shattered the peaceful mountain morning. David, we've got an invasion force, Emily called from the kitchen window. Through the sawdust-covered glass, I watched Brenda's white Escalade leading a small parade, followed by a beat-up contractor's pickup that had seen better decades. Brenda emerged in her full real estate agent armor, blazer, clipboard, and enough confidence to sell ice to an Eskimo. Behind her trailed 2 nervous board members I'd only ever seen at one community meeting, plus a burly guy in work boots who practically screamed, I overcharge for everything. I killed my table saw, wood shavings still adorning my flannel shirt like the world's least impressive confetti, and headed outside. Mr. Miller, Brenda announced with the gravitas of someone who'd binge-watched too many courtroom dramas. We're conducting an emergency property inspection under Section 4.7 of our community safety protocols. The crisp mountain air suddenly crackled with that pre-storm electricity, hinting that all hell was about to break loose. What emergency? Emily appeared beside me, coffee mug in hand, looking as unconcerned as someone checking their mailbox. An anonymous neighbor reported structural concerns, Brenda replied, consulting her clipboard as if it held state secret. Potential safety hazards affecting community welfare require immediate professional assessment. The contractor, built like a fire hydrant with commitment issues, was already circling our foundation with predatory interest. Yeah, these old cabins are disasters waiting to happen. Foundation problems, electrical nightmares, hidden water damage, that'll cost you $20,000 minimum. Emily stepped forward with that deceptively casual movement. Cops perfect after years of de-escalating tense situation. Do you have proper state licensing for property inspections in Colorado? The contractor's swagger deflated faster than a punctured tire. Well, I'm a general contractor. That wasn't my question. Emily's voice remained conversational, but I could hear the steel beneath. After 20 years of marriage, you learn to recognize when your wife shifts from civilian mode to whatever her real job actually involves. Brenda leaped into the breach like a politician at a photo op. Rick's been our trusted community contractor for years. He knows exactly what standards we maintain here. She gestured toward our beautiful front door with obvious disgust. Speaking of standards, those unauthorized lock changes constitute another serious violation. The metallic taste of controlled anger flooded my mouth. Excuse me. New security installations require HOA approval per our emergency safety bylaws, Brenda declared, with the smugness of someone dropping a royal flush, claiming these bylaws were passed during a community protection meeting only responsible board members could attend. This is where things got really interesting. Back in my Air Force days, I'd learned that when someone starts inventing rules on the spot, they're usually hiding something much bigger. Brenda was improvising faster than a jazz musician on espresso. Emily's wedding ring began its unconscious tapping against her coffee mug, the only visible sign her professional instincts were fully engaged. Which specific meeting addressed security protocols? Emily asked, her voice calm. Brenda, the emergency session in March, limited attendance due to health guidelines. Fascinating. Emily's tone could have been discussing grocery lists. Because I actually researched Colorado HOA law pretty thoroughly when we moved here. Emergency meetings require 72-hour written notice to all members, regardless of who shows up. I remembered Emily spending hours at her laptop those first few weeks, claiming she was just being thorough about community rules. My wife doesn't do anything halfway. Brenda's confidence flickered like a candle in a strong wind. Emergency situations obviously override normal bureaucratic procedures. Do they? Emily pulled out her phone with practiced ease. Because state statutes are surprisingly specific about emergency powers, they exist to prevent exactly this kind of creative interpretation. Rick, the contractor, shifted his weight, looking like a man who suddenly realized he'd stumbled into someone else's fight. Look, we just need to verify safety compliance. Based on whose authority? I stepped closer, letting my military bearings show through my civilian clothes. You're on private property without permission, claiming emergency powers that apparently don't exist, demanding access to inspect work that was properly permitted through county officials. The mountain's silence stretched between us, broken only by the wind through the pines and the distant cry of a hawk. Furthermore, Emily continued with devastating casualness, demanding master keys to private residences violates multiple Colorado privacy statutes. HOA authority has very specific limitations regarding residential security. Brenda's face was turning that dangerous shade of red that usually preceded her most memorable public meltdowns. Community safety supersedes individual privacy concerns. Actually, it does. Emily's smile could have powered a small city. But I'm genuinely curious about these emergency bylaws. Could you provide the official vote tallies and recorded minutes? That's administrative details. Brenda's carefully constructed authority was crumbling like a house of cards in a hurricane. Because legitimate bylaw changes require majority approval of all HOA members, not just whoever attends secret meetings. Emily had clearly done her homework better than Brenda ever expected. Rick cleared his throat, desperate to escape. Maybe we should reschedule this whole thing. Outstanding idea. I agreed cheerfully. Next time, bring proper credentials, legal authority, and advance written notice as required by actual law. Brenda gathered her remaining dignity like scattered papers in a windstorm. This isn't finished. Some residents need to learn that community harmony requires respect for established authority. As they retreated to their vehicles in obvious disarray, Brenda's parting shot echoed across our driveway with all the subtlety of a train wreck. Legal technicalities won't protect you from community standards forever. The diesel exhaust from Brenda's Escalade hung in the pristine mountain air, a toxic promise of future battle. Emily watched them disappear around the bend, still maintaining that rhythmic wedding ring percussion against her mug. Well, she said quietly, a glint in her eyes. That was educational. Was it? I asked, studying her face, recognizing something dangerous flickering behind those calm eyes. Because Brenda looked like someone who just realized she picked a fight with the wrong person. Emily's smile was small, controlled, and utterly terrifying. She has absolutely no idea. Brenda's retreat lasted precisely 48 hours before she launched what I can only describe as psychological warfare disguised as neighborly concern. If I thought her initial assault was aggressive, I had severely underestimated the creative vindictiveness of an HOA president with wounded pride and boundless free time. The wellness check parade began Monday morning, precisely at 7, just as Emily was trying to savor her coffee in the peaceful mountain silence. A different board member materialized at our door each day, armed with transparently fabricated emergencies. Monday brought Susan Chen, the treasurer, wringing her hands about unusual vehicle activity. Tuesday featured Michael Davis, the vice president, deeply concerned about our excessive electricity usage patterns. Wednesday delivered Eleanor Vance, the secretary, practically hyperventilating over our potential wildlife attraction issues. The diesel exhaust from their various SUVs became as predictable as the sunrise and about half as welcome. But Brenda's true masterpiece targeted my workshop. You see, I'd been running a small custom furniture business from my converted shed, deck repairs, built-ins, the kind of skilled work that keeps a retired military guy busy and profitable. Everything was perfectly legal, properly zoned, all permits filed correctly with Douglas County. Yet, Apparently, the gentle hum of my table saw at 10 a.m. constituted industrial noise disrupting community tranquility. You've got to be kidding me, I told Eleanor during her Wednesday performance, the sweet scent of pine shavings still clinging to my clothes from morning work. A table saw during normal business hours is somehow disruptive. Eleanor shifted uncomfortably, like someone forced to deliver bad news she didn't believe herself. Well, several neighbors have expressed concerns about the mechanical sound. Emily materialized behind me, coffee mug in hand, radiating that particular energy cops develop after years of listening to creative interpretations of the truth. Which specific neighbors filed these complaints? Eleanor? They requested anonymity. How remarkably convenient. Emily's voice carried enough frost to preserve meat. Anonymous complaints are so much easier to manufacture than legitimate grievances backed by actual people. Thursday morning brought the real escalation. Inspector Thompson, a city electrical inspector, appeared unannounced, clipboard in hand, a palpable attitude, and obvious preconceptions about what he'd find. Got reports you're running unauthorized commercial operations, Thompson announced, skipping basic courtesy entirely. Need to verify electrical compliance for business use. I led him through my workshop, confident in every wire and outlet. The previous owner had been an electrician. Everything was properly grounded, circuits correctly rated, the electrical panel installed by licensed professionals who actually knew what they were doing. Thompson prowled around for 20 minutes, clearly hoping to unearth violations that would justify Brenda's harassment campaign. Everything appears adequate, he finally admitted with obvious reluctance, though I'd recommend a voluntary compliance review. Compliance with what exactly? Emily had followed us, observing Thompson's inspection with the laser focus of someone trained to spot inconsistencies and ulterior motives. Just being thorough, these older structures sometimes hide problems. Emily's wedding ring began that telltale percussion against her ceramic mug, tap, tap, tap. Early in our marriage, I'd mistaken it for nervous energy. 2 decades later, I recognized it as her brain processing information, connecting dots invisible to normal people. Inspector Thompson, Emily began, her voice deceptively casual. You wouldn't happen to play golf with anyone from our HOA leadership, would you? Thompson's professionally neutral mask slipped slightly. Don't see how that's relevant to electrical safety. Just curious. Emily's smile belonged in a high-stakes poker game, because this inspection feels less about code compliance and more about official harassment disguised as municipal concern. After Thompson departed, leaving behind no violations and bruised expectations, Emily opened her laptop and dove into what looked like serious digital archaeology. I'd watched her work late nights before, claiming she was reviewing federal case law or staying current with financial regulations. But this felt different, focused, predatory. Finding anything interesting in there? I asked, refilling her coffee. Brenda's been remarkably creative. Emily scrolled through dense financial documents. Over the past 3 years, our HOA collected $340,000 in special assessments for emergency repairs and critical community improvements. That sounds extremely excessive, especially since I can't locate evidence that any improvements actually occurred. Emily's fingers flew across the keys with practiced efficiency. Remember last year's emergency roof replacement on the community center? Cost everyone an extra $8. I remembered Emily's irritation at the unexpected expense, but we'd paid like responsible community members. I drove past yesterday. That roof looks identical to when we moved here 2 years ago. Emily angled the screen toward me, and every invoice for this phantom work was paid to Pine Ridge Construction Services. Never heard of them. Neither has Colorado's licensing board, but their business registration lists a fascinating address. Emily opened another browser window. It belongs to Rick Sterling, our friend Brenda's brother-in-law. The pattern crystallized like frost on a morning window. Fake inspections, manufactured violations, anonymous harassment. This wasn't simple neighborhood politics. This was organized fraud masquerading as community governance. How much money total? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Based on 3 years of questionable expenditures, Emily replied, her expression pure professional assessment. Approximately $45,000 funneled through shell companies owned by Brenda's family. Anyone who might notice irregularities or ask uncomfortable questions gets the full harassment treatment until they sell and disappear. The morning mountain air suddenly carried a chill that had nothing to do with altitude, She's systematically stealing from every family in this neighborhood. It appears that way, Emily confirmed, and I've prosecuted federal white-collar cases involving smaller amounts. She closed the laptop with decisive finality. That's when the truth hit me. My wife hadn't just been researching HOA regulations as a concerned homeowner. She'd been building a criminal case against a sophisticated embezzlement ring, and Brenda Sterling had just made it deeply, dangerously personal. Brenda's next escalation arrived via certified mail on a Tuesday morning that began with birdsong and ended with the distinct aroma of legal desperation. Emily was preparing for another of her mysterious work trips, the kind where she packed tactical gear, checked weather reports for 3 different states, and wore that 1,000-yard stare that suggested someone was about to have a very bad day. The envelope bore the pretentious letterhead of Sterling and Associates, her city councilman husband's law firm. Nothing screams ethical conflict of interest, quite like weaponizing your spouse's legal practice against neighbors who dare to question your authority. Cease and desist, I read aloud, the expensive paper crackling like kindling, immediate removal of all surveillance equipment, violation of neighbors' reasonable expectation of privacy, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Emily paused mid-pack, that wedding ring beginning its telltale percussion against her travel mug, a sound like raindrops before a storm, innocent individually, ominous collectively. Let me see that masterpiece. She scanned the document with the efficiency of someone who'd read thousands of legal threats. Fascinating legal theory. Shame, Colorado explicitly allows recording on your own property, and our cameras don't capture anything beyond our fence line. Her smile could have flash-frozen lava. Apparently, Councilman Sterling's correspondence course law degree didn't cover basic property rights. The real surprise came Thursday evening, while Emily was off doing whatever federal marshals do when they vanish for 72 hours with minimal luggage and maximum ammunition. Michael Davis called, his voice imbued with the enthusiasm of someone announcing a terminal illness. David, emergency HOA meeting tomorrow night. Brenda's demanding a vote on disciplinary measures. What kind of disciplinary measures? I asked, my heart pounding. Legal action against both of you for disrupting community standards and creating a hostile environment. Michael's voice carried the defeated tone of someone watching democracy die in a subdivision conference room. Friday night, the community center felt like a kangaroo court designed by someone whose only legal education came from daytime television. Brenda had carefully orchestrated her audience, newer residents who hadn't yet realized their dues were funding her extended family's construction business, plus her usual collection of enablers and social climbers. The air hung thick with stale coffee, nervous perspiration, and that particular tension that precedes public character assassination. Emily slipped in just as Brenda called the meeting to order, choosing a back row seat like someone accustomed to observing situations before engaging. Even in civilian clothes, jeans, flannel shirt, hiking boots, she radiated that unmistakable law enforcement energy that made smart criminals nervous and stupid ones overconfident. Primary agenda item, Brenda announced with the solemnity of someone declaring holy war, addressing ongoing disruption by certain residents who refuse to acknowledge basic community standards. She'd prepared a PowerPoint presentation, actual slides with clip art, 20 minutes of bullet points detailing our alleged sins, unauthorized architectural modifications, aggressive surveillance systems, failure to comply with emergency protocols, and my personal favorite, pattern of challenging legitimate board authority. Therefore, Brenda concluded with a theatrical flourish, I motion for immediate legal action against David and Emily Miller for willful violation of community harmony and creation of a hostile residential environment. The room buzzed with uncomfortable energy. This felt less like a democratic process and more like a public execution, presided over by Robert's Rules of Order. That's when Brenda spectacularly overplayed her hand. These people, she declared, gesturing towards Emily as if she were indicating a toxic waste spill, clearly don't understand that property ownership in quality communities comes with social responsibilities. Some residents need to learn their place. The phrase,